Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and another NixOS video. Today we're going to be talking about a bit of an obscure topic with regards to NixOS configuration called Special Args. Special Args really only apply to Flakes, so if you don't like Flakes, then this video probably isn't for you. And if you don't understand Flakes or you find them confusing or something like that, you don't have them set up in your configuration but you'd like to learn, I have several videos talking about Flakes that I will link in the description, and I'll have some pop-ups on the the upper right corner around this time in the video, so definitely check those out if you're interested in Flakes. But back to the focus of this video are special args. So special args, what does that mean? A special argument? Cool, fancy. What does that do? Well, I'll show you. I really like using special args in my configuration because what they allow you to do is they allow you to make a sort of control center for your configuration to sort of make the modularity of the configuration a bit more quick and easy to switch on the fly. What do I mean by this? In my flake.nix file, I have this section here in the outputs definition where I declare a bunch of variables. You'll see these top variables are the quote-unquote system settings, and then these bottom variables are the quote-unquote user settings. Now, I have a very modular config. To show you what I have going on here, I'll just show you the directories. I have my flake.nix. I have tons and tons of module nix files for my system. I have tons and tons of module files for user level applications, like configurations and stuff like that. I have various profile modules that I use, I switch in and out of, and all this stuff. All in all, my config probably has like 70 or 80 different files in it, which maybe like 40 of them are nix files. Actually, I have no idea, but I'll count them later. Anyways, while this modularity is very powerful, it can lead to configuration options and various things sort of being sprawled out across the entire config, and this can sometimes make it difficult to see what's going on or to tweak various things for different systems where we want to install like the same kind of configuration, just want to make minor tweaks here and there. So what happens with these special args, what you can do with them is you declare these variables in your flake.nix in one place, and then you can import those variables into all of the modules. Now, I'll show you an example. Here's a really good example. I have a variable called the username variable. Now, the username is something that needs to be accessed by a bunch of system level nix files, things that might be in a configuration.nix, and then the username also needs to be accessed by things like home manager. So what happens with this username variable is you can pass it in as a special arg to home manager via the extra special args, and to just normal NixOS via the special args, and some inherits. So you'll see both of these inherit the username. And then inside of your other modules, you can have these as arguments inside of those modules. So for example, if I head over to my configuration.nix, you will see that at the top of this config, username is actually an argument to the overall function for the configuration.nix. This can then get used inside of the configuration, sort of like so. So for example, I use this substitution for users.users.username, and that creates the definitions for my actual regular user. This same username variable can then be imported into any of the module files, and it will be replicated across all of them. Like, for example, the home.nix file, which is, again, a completely separate file, it also takes in the username as an actual argument to this file right there, and then it can be used, for example, where I declare home.username equals the username variable, and home.home directory is /home plus whatever the username variable is. This is really, really, really convenient because all you need to do then, once you have some of these set up, if you want to set up a new system with perhaps a different username, you can just change it in one place and then it replicates that amongst your entire system. So this is super, super powerful. A lot of these variables that I declare here are probably ones that you might want to set up and work with, like, for example, the system variable or the host name variable or the time zone variable. Any of these sort of definitions that you want to be able to tweak or change for different systems, and that may occur in multiple different module files or something like that, you can use this to make a control panel of sorts. And this, again, it's super, super powerful. I have the exact same configuration between my personal computer, which is what you're seeing right now, and my work computer. And when I go over to my work computer, all I need to do is pull down the configuration, change the host name, change the profile from personal to work. I think I probably changed my username to like first initial last name, and then like my email to my actual work email, which is not what you're seeing here, and so on and so on. I probably changed the theme as well, but it's basically the same, just with those minor tweaks. And changing the entire system configuration between those two things just happens in basically an instant, because I have these all set up. Now, if you've been following all of my videos, one thing you may be wondering is, oh, well, this can also be achieved by defining custom options, which, if you haven't seen that video about custom options, I'll link that as well and put a little thing up in the corner too. Yes, that is definitely true. All of this can be done with custom options. However, this method is also another tool in your toolbox, because with these variable declarations, you don't have to go through all the trouble of declaring that the option exists and then defining it and making sure that the type is correct and all that fun stuff. You just sort of go running with it like a variable would be used in any other programming language. And so it's a little easier to get running with, which, I set this up when I was still like, in my infancy of learning NixOS, and it's just sort of worked, and I haven't really bothered to change it. Now, again, just to go over some of the more technical details so that you sort of understand what's going on here in more full detail. The way to set this up is you have the declaration for your outputs, and you have to define the outputs as an attribute set, including the things that you want outputted by the flake. For a NixOS system, this is going to include NixOS configurations. That would be the actual system level NixOS configuration. And it's also going to include the home configurations if you're using Home Manager. Now, to have these special args be useful, I think it's best to declare them as variables in a let binding, and then just pass those variables into the home configurations and the NixOS configurations using the let in sort of binding like that. So once you've declared some of the variables in the let binding and you pass them in, you can use them in normal NixOS by defining special args as an argument to the lib.nixos system function. Before, all we had was, declaring the system architecture and the module files that the NixOS system should be built from. And so this special args argument is sort of an unnecessary argument that is passed to the function, but when you do pass it, you need to define it as an attribute set, sort of like so with these squiggly brackets. Now, if you have defined all of your variables up above in a let binding, you can just pass these all as inherits. Though also, if you really wanted to, you could pass in something like normal. So for example, random thing equals some stuff. And then this could be, of course, included in your other modules, just like any of the other ones. And this variable would have the value some stuff. This process is identical to Home Manager. If I scroll up here, except that we pass in the argument extra special args. It's still an attribute set, and so all the same rules apply. You can inherit the variable declarations from the let binding, or you can, of course, create some new things like other thing equals some other stuff. And the other thing could then be passed as an argument to your other modules, and it would have the value some other stuff. Once you pass these as special args or extra special args, then any of the module files that you define for the home configuration or for the NixOS configuration, or any of the subsequent modules that get imported, can use these arguments. So for example, my NixOS system configuration uses this configuration.nix. So this configuration.nix file would have access to all of these different inherits as special arguments, which can again go on the top here. But then any imported module file would also have access to all of these special arguments as well. So for example, if I opened up my hardware configuration.nix, while I don't include any of these in here, I could include any of the arguments from before in here, like username or name or hostname or whatever. It's the same exact deal with any home manager files or any home manager module files. So I'm not going to go over that again. It's just the exact same thing. You pass the arguments into special args or extra special args in that case. You have them available to be used as arguments in these functions. Now, one error you want to keep in mind is the variable not defined error. And you will definitely get that error if you do not import the actual variable into the arguments. So if you're not including, say, for example, I didn't include username as an argument, I use the username variable in this file, and it's going to give an undefined variable error there. So if you're getting any undefined variable errors, it's most likely the case that you just forgot to include it in the argument at the beginning of this function here. Now, another thing that you'll probably notice with my configuration that it's kind of been annoying me, and it may be annoying you, is, and this is especially the case with my home manager config, I have about like 30 or maybe, well, I guess some of these are like, I guess some of these are actually just like Git repos that I've imported as inputs to the Flake, which that's a topic for another video. But like I have like 15 or so variables. Yeah, about 15 variables, which that's a lot of different variables. And do keep in mind, every single variable that you want to use, they must all be imported into the file. So for example, if I go into my home.nix file here, I'm pretty sure this one has, yeah, you'll see here, I have, I think, like 15 arguments to the home.nix file. Config, lib, packages, std, and environment, fetch URL, all this stuff, the username, email, .files directory, theme, window manager, browser, editor, spawn, editor, term. Like, there's all these different things that sort of get included. And this can get really annoying to keep writing this out in all of your module files. So when I had put this all together, I actually didn't understand this idea. But one thing that you can actually do is define these as attribute sets. Again, attribute sets, they keep coming up over and over in NixOS and Nix. They're just super awesome. And why they're super awesome is you could, for example, I could take all my user settings here, which is like, there's like 15 of them. And I could define them as one attribute set. So for example, user settings equals, and I just define these all as a single attribute set. And so the thing that is nicer about this, there we go, is that this is now one thing. It's not 15 things. It's one thing with 15 different components. Meaning, if I go down here to the inherits, I no longer have to inherit 15 things. I can just inherit inherit the user settings. Oh, I cannot spell. User settings. There we go. And now it's only one thing that needs to be imported as an argument into this function. This function would no longer need all of this stuff. It would just need user settings, like so. Now, this, of course, I would have to go in then and change all of these. So my home.username would not be just username as a variable anymore. It would be the user settings.username. And the same thing that would happen here. So the sort of the reason that I haven't gone and updated this to be more clean and easy to read and easy to work with is because I've been kind of lazy. But definitely before I post this video, I am going to update my entire configuration to sort of use these these special args and extra special args, these variable declarations, as these full, complete, and useful attribute sets rather than 15 or 20 different variables. I personally think that that's probably the better way to go with this. So when you get started with this, you can think about how you want to chunk these variables and stuff like that into neat and manageable bits of sets, I guess you could say, attribute sets. That's what they're called, of course, right? So you don't run into the problem that I have where I'm writing functions that have 20 arguments when I could write one function that has 4 or 5 arguments instead. I mean, this one still has like 7 arguments, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but in any case, I'll put some links to my config. I'll put both a link to some of the commits where before I've done this change with the attribute sets, because in some sense it is a little easier to look at, and might be a little easier to understand how the code works. But definitely using these attribute sets is a little bit more efficient writing wise, I think, especially when it comes to how many arguments you have to pass to your modules. Future Emmett here with a quick post edit. So I went in and actually did the whole conversion where all of my special args, these variables at least, are contained in these 2 neat attribute sets, system settings and user settings. And as I was doing that, I realized there was one thing I forgot to mention that is sort of an important trick that is not exclusive to this. It's actually a whole attribute set idea. So one of the things that I have in my config specifically is I have this variable called the spawn editor, which if you read it, you can sort of figure out what it does. Basically, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to take my editor variable and transform that into an actual command that can be run to actually spawn whatever editor that I decide to use. So for example, if I have Emacs client as my editor, which is what it is 99% of the time, the actual command to open an Emacs client window is not just Emacs client. It is actually Emacs client -c-a and then Emacs. And then similar thing, if I wanted to set my editor to Vim, you can't just like run Vim and have it open in a terminal automatically necessarily, at least not from a tiling window manager binding. So if it's Vim or NeoVim or whatever, or Nano, I guess, then it's supposed to execute a terminal with the actual editor. Otherwise, it would just open whatever editor it is, if it's like VS Codium or something, if I happen to ever need to use that, which I don't really want to. But that long story aside, essentially what's happening here is I am computing the value of spawn editor using another part of the attribute set, editor. And by default, this won't really work. In order to allow this to work, you need to put rec. I think that stands for recursive, as you declare the attribute set. So you'll see my user settings attribute set is recursive attribute set, meaning has this sort of designation with it, meaning I can calculate the values of certain parts of that attribute set using other parts of the attribute set, sort of within itself. My system settings attribute set up here is not like that, so I don't need to utilize that. In any case, I hope this was a helpful video for you. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I do apologize that I haven't been able to put out a video in quite a while. I've sort of been getting over some sickness. My whole family actually has been, and busy with being sick and work and other stuff like that. But I want to say just a huge shout out of thanks to all of you that have subscribed and commented on my videos. It's all you guys, all you that keep this going. Because if it weren't for you guys, I probably would have quit quite a while ago. But I'm just blown away how I almost got 2,000 subscribers, which is just absolutely amazing. Very, very appreciative of all of that. I am especially thankful to my 2 channel members, Gonzalo Rafael Acosta and N Entre. Thank you very much for your monetary support. It really helps keeping the channel going. Just to let you all know, I have activated the YouTube channel member feature. I got 3 different levels that you could consider joining to help me out. Level 1, $3 a month. Level 2 for $5 a month, and level 3 for a whole $10 a month. And of course, I will give you this shout out at the end of every video. So if you're enjoying this content and you want to see more of it, please consider joining as a channel member. If you like this video, please leave a like and comment and subscribe for more of this Linux NixOS content. Definitely more NixOS on the horizon, and I'm pretty soon I might start doing some tiling window manager configuration tutorials. Probably starting with Hyperland. I know Hyperland isn't a tiling window manager, but it basically is a tiling window manager. But anyways, thank you all for your time and attention, your support, and I hope this is helpful to you. And have a great rest of your day and take care.